Hi, my name is Ken Mizrak, and I want to welcome you to this 4-week class in crisis communications. First, a little bit about myself. I'm currently the CEO and Director of the VA New Jersey healthcare system. I've also been with the VA for almost 42 years, where I've traveled throughout the United States and have certainly seen my share of crisis, both internal and external, to the VA healthcare system. Unfortunately, oftentimes we hear the following statement when crisis strikes. We never thought it would happen to me, never thought it would happen to us. I never thought it would happen to this community. This class is about preparation. It's about trying to understand and dissect the intricacies of today's world of crisis management and crisis communications. For each of us must realize that when crisis strikes, you no longer have hours or days to try to plan your strategy. You literally have seconds, because the speed at which the news travels is so fast that you must be prepared to know what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, where you're going to say it, and how you're going to deliver that message that's going to build trust and believability with your publics. I like to sometimes tell a short story that kind of illustrates the importance of how it could impact even your career. This elderly gentleman was leaving, going into retirement, and his replacement came in and he wanted to give him some advice about dealing with crisis, and he wasn't interested. So he left him a couple of envelopes. He said, if you ever run into a problem, go to envelope number 1, and I'll leave you a second envelope as well. He said, fine, thank you very much. Sure enough, within 3 months of the new CEO's tenure, a crisis broke out, and he didn't know what to do. But then he remembered envelope number 1. He went to number 1, opened it up, and it said, blame your predecessor. And that's what he did. And it worked. Sure enough, time moved on and life was good again. 8 months later, another crisis broke out, and he still wasn't prepared. But he remembered envelope number 2. He went to envelope number 2, opened it up, and it said, prepare 2 more envelopes. Crisis could have that type of an impact upon those who are in leadership positions and are expected to lead in the worst of times, a crisis. So over these next 4 weeks, which will be split into 4 units, we'll begin to dissect the various approaches to dealing with crisis. But first, in Unit 1, we'll talk about what is news today. Is news more about entertainment, or is it about information we need to know? We'll define what is a crisis. Is simple management interruptions a crisis today? Or is crisis, as I said earlier, become the new normal? We'll talk about what skills are necessary for a spokesperson to have in order to connect with their audiences, to give that feeling that they know what they're doing. Because the trust and the ability for those to follow your lead will be very well determined about those first words you use when a crisis strikes. In Unit 2, we'll talk about how do you control the message? How you communicate to make sure that you build that trust and believability of your publics. How do you develop sound bites? How do you develop those short messages that are going to be your key themes throughout a crisis? We'll be using throughout these 4 units videos, articles, interactive discussions between you and I so that we could share with each other what our experience have taught us over these many, many years. In Unit 3, we'll talk about what are the different venues that we may have to deliver our message. Who are these news reporters that will come looking for an interview? Maybe they'll have a press conference. Maybe you'll be ambushed in the parking lot. How do you respond? Certainly, you don't want to use the terms like no comment, which certainly conveys a feeling of guilt to the public watching. When an organization has some fault involved, how do you understand the art of the apology? A very important idea that must be conveyed is that there is a feeling that there's concern, that you've taken action, and you are looking to prevent further occurrence of the disaster or crisis that struck. And finally, in Unit 4, we'll discuss what lessons were learned from a crisis. It's important that we take away after a crisis has settled down or has passed. What lessons did you learn? What do we put into place to prevent future occurrences? But most importantly, the importance of preparation and practice to make this successful. Again, this is going to be an exciting 4 weeks. It's going to move very rapidly. I look forward to interaction with each and every one of you and the ability to role play and give you the opportunity to see how well you would do if you were in the eye of the storm. Look forward to seeing you all online.